borderline obsessed with her, but whatever. Just for this. Sent you a cup of my blood. Did you get my blood? Hello. Here we are. It's
Excuse
Monday.
Me. Do I know you? No, but that's who you are. You're there.
What is going on? It's Monday night. Snakes and Stogies episode 178. Why do you, Phil, look surprised by that?
It's just crazy. 178 episodes. Wild.
No, we got episode 200 of THP happening. Hopefully this week. It's not going to happen Thursday because Jake felt it more important that the Green Bay game was coming on at the same time we usually record. So he's like, can we do it Wednesday or Friday? And then I said Wednesday, but then now I think about it, I don't know that Wednesday's going to work. So it might be Friday, and I don't know if Friday's going to work. So we'll have to see. But the man takes his Green Bay football very seriously.
Yeah, man. He's definitely a cheesehead.
He's a nerd
through and through.
Sports ball.
Sports.
Yeah, sports, man.
As the Broncos hit a couple touchdowns.
3-pointers, I think.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
And from the penalty box, field goal. Should be a Bears fan. Ooh, that might be fighting words. I don't know. Do they have like gang-esque rivalries up there about that kind of stuff, right? It's like murder in the streets.
I don't know, man. I'm disconnected.
Yeah, the Pro Bowl thing doesn't do a whole lot for me. I don't pay attention to it pretty much at all. But
all I know is the Dolphins did something monumental last night, and I was the asshole who didn't really care too much.
You didn't watch Ray Finkel reclaim his glory?
Laces out. That's how you know it's a nerd show, when like the Dolphins actually do something legitimately monumental, and the best we can do is make an Ace Ventura reference.
Yeah. I was dying, man, one day because I was working at the shop, and Raj was working, and Raj is originally from India. He's an American citizen now and speaks English and everything great. Like, you wouldn't know it. But we were talking about football, and I was like, man, you remember Ray Finkel? And he's like, no, who's that? I like legitimately had him sold on the fact that Ray Finkel was like a real football player.
That's amazing.
It was great. Just went right over his head.
That's fantastic.
But we're here. This episode is brought to you by BlackBoxCages.com. Whether you need a rack, whether you need a cage, BlackBox Cages. Use the code THN at checkout. Get yourself a little bit of money shaved off. If you're going to get a rack, I mean, XR16s, XR20s, perfect for upgrading things as you go without having to get an entirely new rack. I feel like that's a severely underappreciated aspect of that rack, is like you can get a bunch of hatchlings in that rack, and then as they grow or as you decide what to hold back, instead of having to completely shift them to a new rack for a bigger tub, you just swap out the tub, and they are interchangeable. So you can, I mean, except for the V35s, like you can rock an 18 with one of the smaller ones. You know, you can make it work. And I think that's a pretty big deal with a rack, because who wants to buy a rack every time they got to upgrade animals? You know,
it's very true. And then you have or better yet, you have an empty small rack, and you feel compelled to fill it.
That couldn't be a problem for some people. I don't know.
It could. Does BlackBox make, and I may be talking out of my butt on this one, but does BlackBox make a rack that you can switch it from long ways to horizontal and use the same tub?
No.
Okay.
Because I've asked Jen about some of the like 32 quart ish stuff, because the one from the one company I really dislike, it comes out sideways. It's not long ways, and I like that, especially if the tub doesn't have feet, but this one does. So I'll just go deal with it.
Yeah.
With the bigger tubs, not necessarily the 32 quarts or whatever, but anything like a V70 going in sideways, they said the middle will bow if there's too much length and not enough support. on the
Okay.
middle of it. So they're like, we don't do bigger tubs sideways like that because it just doesn't work out.
Okay. I just didn't know if there was one where it's like you have 3 long ways, or you could take those 3 out and put one long horizontal one. I didn't know if that was a thing.
I mean, I'm sure you could put some of the smallest V series tubs in long ways in the rack if you wanted to.
Yeah.
I don't know why you would, but footprint wise, it should be the same if I'm not mistaken. But
Interesting. All right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Love their cages, love their racks. I have both. If you like both, get both. If you like racks, get racks. If you like cages, get cages. Whatever rustles your jimmies.
Float your
Whatever
boat.
floats that boat. And then fullvisaapparel.com. We have our first international sale as of the other day. I finally got the whole international markets thing figured out. And so I got some shirts going to France here in the next couple days.
That's pretty awesome.
And so if you're listening and you're outside of the US and you want some Fulvius stuff, a very large majority of countries I have it set to be able to ship to. So if you're in those and you're listening and you wanted some shirts, you should be able to place an order now. If you go on there and you can't, please message me and let me know so I can get it figured out, because the whole thing has been very confusing. And I'm still not entirely sure I know what I'm doing.
But you also have some wonderful hats as well.
I do. I have one Sabak hat left out of the bunch. I was just telling Jeff before we started, I ordered more hats, just have to get them embroidered. And as I was saying, just as we were starting as well, because we have that third machine at work that is going to be pretty much dedicated to nothing but hats, I'll be able to get them in a little more regularly, be able to do them a little more, like inventory will be a little more steady with those, because it's not going to have to stop and tie up another machine at work and get in the way of like day-to-day orders, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
it's a little less stressful. And the new machine now, if anybody noticed, the way it was set up before, like my hat or like Phil's hat, the older machines, you couldn't go over this seam in the middle on these structured hats because it's too stiff. On the new machine, it doesn't care at all. It does a bigger right across the top. Where am I turning? Right here. Nope. What? Okay. Right. It'll do the full thing. So the embroidery is bigger, better, same hats and everything. And that machine just does not care. It's great. Doesn't stop it a bit. So I'm going to get inventory updated on those. I think what I'm going to end up doing is like probably just ditching the flex fit hats and stuff and switching to the same, like the one that you're wearing, Phil, that same model. That's a Sport Tech. Snapbacks, just keep it easy. If someone insists on getting a flex fit or something, I can order it, do like a special order kind of thing. That's fine. We have not tried Richardson's on it yet, but if it can handle these, no problem, then I'm sure the Richardson's won't be a problem. But my coworker has a vendetta against Richardson's because of these older machines, and it's struggling so much on them. So we'll see. I've been trying to coax her into giving a Richardson a shot and seeing what happens, but just haven't had the time. So, but I got some new shirt stuff. I've been working on some art. Yeah, Jeff, yours should be there. I don't know. It said to be delivered before 8. Jeff got some PSP hats, and they look real good. I don't know, what time is it there. It's like 7, right? 6, 6:10.
Yeah,
6.
Okay, we'll see. It should be there. I don't know. The post office can be can be squirrely. So, speaking of Puget Sound Pythons, also check them out on Facebook and Instagram. Watch their journey with the Dorianus. It's been pretty cool to watch them just hit the ground running.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah. And it's sort of like the ideal scenario, honestly, with the whole thing, where it's just
man.
It's at the house. Kendra's testing it out. And I don't get off till 11. Oh, I got you. Okay. So they have them.
Cool.
Sure, they'll post about them. But yeah, give them a follow on Morph Market as well. Hunt them down, see what they've got up for grabs, and stay in the loop as far as what's available. And then, last but not least, cold-blooded caffeine. It's delicious. What we've got coming down the pipe is pretty legit. Having tasted it myself, I am pretty damn impressed.
Dude, the aroma opening the box before we even opened any of the prototype samples, the aroma, the effervescence of it just captivates your soul.
It smelled like burnt peanuts to me. Little like burnt peanuts, a little earthy.
Dude, I just melt. I melt with that fragrance.
I loved it. I'm not complaining about it. It smells great. And then it flavor wise, like on the palate, it's very different. It's very, very unique. So
Very.
the OG sponsors. That's right, Jeff. Randy likes the flex fits. Yeah, I'll still do the flex fits. It's just got to be like a special request kind of thing. You have to set that up behind the scenes. Yeah, I don't know when like the official sort of announcement or release of what that is going to be. We're still working on like packaging stuff with the cold-blooded crew, but should be soon.
Be on the lookout.
That's right. I have updates. Do you have updates? What are you smoking this evening, first of all?
Tonight.
I kind of hit you with a lot there.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what? 1, 2, or 4? Yeah.
Loading.
My last one until I source more. This is the one you gave me in Daytona.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone knows that band. Everyone knows that band. The Romacraft. Delicious. What color is that band? Is it peach? Do we call it peach? Oh, let him ignite. Let him light the fires that drive the show.
It's really hard to do that when there's a fan going. It's an orange band.
It's orange band. Orange. It's kind of coppery to me.
I'd call it a pumpkin.
It is. Oh, it's very pumpkin. How apropos. Yeah, Romacraft, the best. I need to find it down by me, man. Nobody carries it, and it's killing me on the inside. So, and Smitty's trying to light something with this fan. I'm watching the wind take his flame.
Kicking my ass.
What are you smoking, Bubba?
So I went to the shop earlier and felt like changing it up a little bit. And we have these Fuente Rosado Sungrowns, which is it's just a great smoke. Usually Rosados, historically, I haven't been a terribly big fan of flavor-wise. I don't know. They just never really done much for me. But this Fuente Rosado is very good. So I grabbed one, and then I got a My Father Connecticut as backup, but I'm kind of smoking them in reverse because typically I would smoke a Connecticut before I moved on to something stronger and more flavorful because you're not really going to taste much of this if that's what you're going for. But it's been a minute since I've had one of these Rosados, and I grabbed one. So
a fine choice.
How do you not drink coffee, Jeff? I drink coffee. I don't drink a ton of coffee, but I appreciate good coffee.
Yes.
Wait, I'm not the only Jeff that doesn't drink coffee?
That's weird. I was I felt like you did, bro. I got that. We were just talking about how we're cut from the same cloth.
Yeah, well.
Oh,
not that cloth.
Not that cloth. I'm at like 4 or 5 cups a day now. It's pretty bad.
Jeez. I'll do just that much caffeine, but it's typically like a dark soda of some sort.
Yeah.
I don't know how Jeff's doing it up in Seattle area, Washington with no coffee.
Yeah, I was just
they haven't
thinking
kicked him out by now.
Yeah, right.
The home of the mecca of Starbucks and all things Seattle's best. Isn't that a thing?
Yeah, Pikes.
Yeah, whatever they used to sell at Borders, right?
Yeah, right.
You spell it wrong, but I forgive you. Yeah, I mostly drink energy drinks too, but I do like coffee. Every now and then I get the itch. Oh,
Well,
Jeff, what are you smoking?
I was just gonna say this is the perfect segue to introduce our
Look at
Jeff.
that.
Yeah, I'm smoking a Perdomo. On Justin's suggestion here. Went out to the
Lot
cigar shop.
23.
Lot 23.
Nice.
Maduro.
So yes, tonight we are joined by the one and only Mr. Jeff Frederick. Welcome to the show, Bubba.
Thank you very much. I wish I was the one and only. I might be able to get the email address that way. There's a senator, first, middle, last name somewhere out there in one of those states.
Really? That's disappointing. That's disappointing.
No, really happy to join you guys tonight, though.
It's cool.
Been a long time coming, but glad to be here.
Dude.
It has been. I do like my coffee cold. So when I do drink coffee, it's very rarely hot. I got to be that guy. It's got to be iced or something. Even if it's wintertime, like hot coffee, no interest.
Do you like hot chocolate?
Yeah. I don't.
Look, I love hot chocolate. I love rich, creamy hot cocoa. And what I'm about to say, people are probably going to be like, what the hell's wrong with you, man? That's fake bullshit. But my employer bought K-Cups of Swiss Miss. And I'm sorry,
they're
man,
not bad.
Dude, it's pretty
they're
nice.
They're not bad.
At like 3 PM, you want to just get a little sweet.
South Florida, you know.
Dude, I'm all about the Swiss
It's a nice,
Miss.
Brisk 70 degrees on a January day.
Yeah, exactly.
Got to warm up with a nice Swiss Miss.
Yeah, dude. And then like his wife got the little dehydrated marshmallows, you know, in like the little jar.
Those are the best.
Sprinkle some marshmallows, bro, on a nice 92 day.
You used to be able to go in 7-Eleven and fill a cup with those and walk out telling them it's coffee.
Really?
Just the marshmallows?
Yep, just the marshmallows. You don't need the coffee.
That sounds horribly good. Just crunching them. Like,
yep.
Well, I remember
Lucky Charms.
I was gonna say,
part of Lucky Charms.
Wasn't there one time when Lucky Charms did like a limited edition where it was just the marshmallows?
You can buy them.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
Jeez. Just diabetes in a box.
Pretty much. I think it comes in a bag, but 100%.
Yeah,
you're gonna lose your leg.
Yeah, touche. Oh man. So forgive me if I'm gonna butcher this name, but how's Appa?
Appa is good. Yeah, it's Appa, like Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Okay, cool.
He's hanging out. He's over here.
Nice.
Yeah, he doesn't want to come too close to the cigar, but he'll get in front of the camera for sure.
Nice. There he is. Look at that smush.
There's that handsome fella.
Smush.
Yeah, he's a good boy.
Yeah, man. I saw you get that inaugural post, and I was like, oh my god, you just want to just mush the face, just smush them.
Absolutely. And my partner loves to tell it, you know, every time. This is the second time that I've gone to the county shelter looking for a Chihuahua and come home with a big ass bulldog.
That's good, man. That's good. So is he pure English or no?
No idea. He came from like I said, he's from the county shelter.
So yeah, but I didn't know if they knew. Cool.
Most likely in Old English, I think is what they said.
Okay.
I've had an Old English bulldog before. They're great. You know, much healthier. If people aren't familiar with the breeds, much healthier than the English bulldog. You know, they were bred to be a healthy bulldog, essentially.
Yeah.
But
those big watery eyes.
I know. Dude, look at those face rolls. You just want to smother
it's just a
it.
smush. And he will just like push his face straight into you.
It's adorable, man.
It's like, how do you breathe? It doesn't matter. He took a 50-yard dash and a 30-yard room.
Nice. That's great, man. Good stuff, dude. Good stuff.
He's a good boy, though. Yeah, for the most part. It's hard to believe I've only had him for like 4 or 5 months now.
Yeah, man. Time flies, man.
Hell yeah. Training right off the bat. You know.
Any idea how old he might be?
He was actually an owner surrender, so he's 2.
Oh, even better. Even better. You know the facts. That's good, man.
Yeah, more or less. They didn't say anything about the actual breed. They were calling him an English bulldog, but he doesn't have the right body type for it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Cool, man. Cool. Good stuff.
Yeah, he's a hell of a dog.
We do love him on this show, man. Oh, man.
I don't know. I've heard Smitty talk some shit about his dog on the show before.
dude.
It's my
Smitty
shadow,
has
man. That's
the-
my guy.
Yeah, like that's his partner in crime, bro.
Yeah.
Now, forgive me, I can't remember the cat's name. What was the cat? Was the cat's name?
Archie
Hector.
or something? Hector. That's what
Hector. Now, Hector.
I'll talk shit about Hector all day long.
I was gonna say, I've
He's a
heard,
cat.
I've having have met him, I can see how it torments Smitty.
I love that cat to death, but he's a real pain in the ass sometimes. Because he does that cat thing where it's like if you want something and you don't give it to him, he just starts jumping up and like batting things, knowing you're gonna get up and move him, like knowing you're gonna give him what he wants. You're gonna break. That little
Don't tell my dog
terrorist.
that's a cat then.
Yeah,
Archie,
that's good.
Archibald is an absolute angel. Archie doesn't do none of that. He sits there and looks at him and then looks at me like, "Oh my god, Dad, it's happening! Dad, stop him!"
He is creepily well behaved. I will say that.
Who, Archie?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got super lucky with him.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't have any issues because he was a rescue as well. No issues with him, like, destroying things or anything like that when we first brought him home. I think he chewed on some stuff, but it was mostly a nervous, that first, like, couple weeks of sort of settling in. But, yeah, he's very much, if I'm home, he's pretty much behind me pretty much constantly. So...
Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
What is new in South Florida?
Not too much, man. Not too much. I fed everything the other day, which is unlike me. I like to try and space it out to like half the room one day, half the room another day. But I was like, you know what? I got frozen. I got some time in the afternoon, excuse me. And so I did. And like, it's a good feeling. And then you remember how much work it is. And I was like, holy crap. And I realized that because I'm enjoying my room so much more now, everything is taking me longer because I'm enjoying it. So like, I can't just feed the baby Subak. I have to take 40 pictures, 39 of which are blurry. You know what I mean? Like, it just has to happen. But yeah, I'm having fun, and I'm trying to deck out black box cages to the best of my ability. But every time I get an idea, I'm like, oh, I could do this better. I could do that better. You know, I mentioned last week how I was messing around with some excavator clay and trying to use a little dry lock. And I was looking at hieroglyphic stamps online. And then I was like, man, this is really cool. I can buy these stamps and I can like make hieroglyphics. And I was like, wait a minute. I should just get really small razor blades and just try and do it myself. That'll be the better way, right? Right. So here I am sitting there like etching fake stone with a razor blade, and I'm like, it's 1 a.m. What the hell am I doing? Let's go to bed. But
It's
other
just
than that,
stick
man,
figures playing football or something.
yeah, yes, yeah, it's little men with little stick arms doing the Egyptian, so to speak.
Phil, I'll give you a tip on that one for cutting into the foam. Go to Michael's, Joann's, whatever you have for arts and crafts stores down there. The linoleum cutters for printmaking. They fit into like a almost like a screwdriver handle with a blade on it that's got like a V notch to it, and you can just like roll it in and roll it out of that.
Really?
Foam.
Oh yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
Okay, I think I know exactly what you're talking about. My thing is though, I'm doing it into rock hard clay. So that's why I wound up start off
with a Dremel.
Chisels.
I was afraid to do the Dremel because I feel like it would be depending on the bit size and the bit head, and then obviously the speed in which I'm dremeling. I didn't want to take away too much too quick or make it too wide, so I figured if I just used a small razor blade. Then I have I actually took pottery in college, so I had some old pottery bladed tools, and just kind of taking my time and just kind of just etching a little bit. So like draw it all out with the X-Acto blade and a ballpoint pen, and then slowly just etch away. But then again, I'm doing this at like 1:30 in the morning, and I'm thinking to myself, what the hell are you doing? So I stop and throw it all on the table and walk away. But yeah, the you said it was like linoleum cutter?
Yeah.
All right, I'll definitely check that out. That sounds awesome. Because I feel like that'll still work for what I'm doing.
Yeah, and you might just have to swap out the blades more often, or something along those lines. I'm not
Yeah.
above making my own tools. Like I remember carving into some foam backgrounds and stuff, and I just wasn't particularly happy with it. So I took a hammer to a spoon and sharpened the edge of it, to make my own sort of gouge for that.
Yeah,
I mean, hot wire cutters way easier than something like that. But at the same time, I'm cheap.
Well, see, I bought the cheap hot wire, like not the actual hot wire foam factory branded one. I bought like the cheap and easy one, and I mean it worked, but all I could think of was it's cutting and melting more than I want, and I'm breathing fumes. So I'm not doing.
That's part of the experience.
Yeah. It just makes you more creative.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, your stick figures are changing, and they're morphing, and they're getting bigger.
They're moving.
And their arms go the length of the enclosure all of a sudden.
Yeah, man, all these Egyptians are obese. Jesus. But other than that, man, same old on my end. What about you, gentlemen?
Well, yesterday was day 145 on the Jansenii egg.
Yes, I was wondering if you're going to bring that up.
And after talking to Bobby Pebbles, after talking to Daniel Schwint, I was like, you guys, how long should I wait? Because 145 is kind of the end of the range for typical hatching time. So I was like, how many days should I wait before I cut this thing? And both of them basically said, I'd do it now. And I did. And lo and behold, the baby was very much close to full term and dead. So after the long multi-month wait, we got close, but no cigar. Pun intended. Man. So
it's tough, man.
That was definitely a damper on my evening. I went to bed in pain. But it's one of those things where you kind of have to, again, take it in stride. We've talked about it with just losing stuff in general. Like, you do this long enough, it's going to happen. You just got to learn how to, figure out what you did wrong and move forward from there. And so that's kind of where I'm at now, is figuring out what I could have done differently. Because that thing was, I won't say it was it wasn't a factor of it couldn't get out and it died in the egg as it should have come out. This, I think, had another probably 2-ish weeks or so of development, I think, to be fully formed and ready to go. So I'm not sure exactly what the hiccup was. I'm thinking maybe next time bump the temperatures up a little bit and do a night drop. I don't know. I'm gonna sort of look at things and talk to. I need to get in touch with Henry and ask him if he can hit up his people over there and in that part of the world and see what they do, temperature wise and incubation wise, and maybe there's something to be picked up there. Mike asked if it was colored yet. It wasn't. It was still gray and white, which that's what makes me believe that it still had another bit of time to go before it was fully developed, because that green that they come out as is the last thing to sort of show up to the party as far as development goes. And it wasn't there yet. There wasn't any green coming in. There was still pattern and stuff. But oddly enough, right as I'm figuring out that it's dead in the egg, I get a text from my dad saying, I just got a corn off Marshhawk Drive, which is the main drag into their neighborhood. So I thought that was kind of eerie because I haven't seen even a DOR corn in that area lately at all, in a long time. And then all of a sudden there's this perfect yearling female that my dad managed to catch. And so I felt like that was kind of the reptile gods saying, you tried,
For sure, dude. For sure.
But I mean, I'm adding that animal to the group. It's small enough. We've talked about how we're not into taking home adult animals. And this looks to be a yearling that was probably hatched last year. Perfect shape, no scars, no bumps, no nothing. That animal, if I put it on a table, you would think that it was just as captive bred as anything else. Looks just like the F1s that I've produced a lot of with the Ladies Island stuff.
Yeah, man, it's a killer looking animal.
Yeah. So she's in the roster now. But yeah, I mean, next year's kind of my plan is right now is to get the adults, as far as the Jansen I go, more primed, in hopes that I can get bigger and better clutches from her. And if I have more eggs to work with, I can at least split them up, have some in the room on the shelf, and then some in the incubator in case, and see if there's any results there. I don't know. So now we're kind of back to square one as far as the strategy and what needs to change and what needs to be adapted, and kind of gonna go from there. But
it's good, man. Chin up.
It was, I mean, just getting the egg, and getting it that far into incubation was a major step from last year, which was eggs that weren't fertile. So we're getting closer and closer. It's just that species is notoriously difficult to hatch. Stone thinks that there's something going on where like the egg deteriorates over time naturally, and they're able to hatch easier as a result of that. But there's something we're missing artificially as far as that happening. That's at least his theory. Because I was cutting that egg, dude. I've never cut a snake egg that was that thick. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah, and I noticed in your your incubation box, was it just Svag or was there vermiculite underneath that?
So no, it was that aquatic plant soil that I like to use.
Oh, okay.
So I have that, the light diffuser, and then what I pretty much incubated it the same way I incubated the Cyanea babies, or eggs, is like I had them on the light diffuser, and then I had a clump of spag on one end of the incubation of that box just to keep the humidity sort of up and I guess kind of rotating, so it's not just sort of sitting there in the, it's at least getting absorbed.
Yeah, it's not festering
by that spag. Mm-hmm. And that worked really well for the Cyanea, but yeah, I'm not sure, because it's so frustrating, especially when it's late term like that, where it's like you were so close. Like, what, was it something I did? Was it something that just happened in the egg that you have no control over and would have happened regardless? And I'm sure, I guess it's really no different if it was an early term death, but to know that you were like right there and then something went awry and not knowing exactly what that is kind of requires a little bit of detective work on my part, and really thinking, and I need to go through the Mater book and look in the section on eggs and development and learning more about exactly how that works, and just a whole... That's kind of like the exciting part about the whole thing, though, even with a failure like that, is it's now an opportunity for you to figure out what's the missing, like what's the part that wasn't there in the first place, like where was the disconnect? I don't know. I enjoy that and trying to sort of figure it out and hypothesize at least what it might have been, but just increases the fascination with the species and trying to crack the code.
Yeah, man, you're on the right path for sure.
When you're starting out, that's one of those things. It's like treading through a maze. Sometimes you got to take a few steps backwards before you can really go forward. You're talking about a species that not a lot of people have really bred in captivity, and you're just going with all the information that you got. That's it.
Very well put. Very well put.
Stone told me it took the Denver Zoo like 4 years just to get babies hatched. Like, it took them that long just to sort of get things dialed in enough to know this is what's going on. And that's why, like, Daniel Schwint's been such a big help, because he's hatched probably more Jansen at least in the States, than a very large majority of people that have even attempted to breed them. So clearly he's doing something right, but he was hatching his on the shelf in his room. He wasn't doing anything specific, and that's why I wonder if that night drop does make a difference, because I was doing a night drop on the Cyanea as well. I decided just to rock a steady 78 on this. Maybe there is something to that fluctuation that is necessary. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, with a lot of snake breeders that I've spoken to one-on-one in person, more experienced folks, a lot of times the thing is, if the egg is good, it's going to go the distance. And 9 times out of 10, especially when you're talking about somebody that's got experience incubating eggs, nothing really messed up in the incubator. You didn't forget to plug it in for 70 days or something along those lines. It's a lot of times it's coming down to what's happening with those adults. Is it just a shit male? Sometimes that happens. That's, you talk to a lot of chondro breeders and they'll tell you they keep good males around because good males, you see males for sale all the time, but good males are worth their weight in gold.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man.
I've had my green tree, my chondro has been with Jason Balin for like 2 or 3 years now, trying to get something going with an animal that he'd had. And it's one of those things where it's just, maybe it's not a great male. Maybe he wasn't conditioned quite right. The drops, the temperature drops, things like that, things that we really just look over.
Yeah, man, for sure.
And I mean, I really like this year in particular with the Jansen, I did more to sort of prep them going into like June, because that's when I typically notice that I'm getting eggs. So like leading up to that is when I was trying to feed them a little more and sort of get the ball rolling in terms of prepping them for breeding season and getting them sort of cycled for it. But I could have done more. So next year, my plan is to feed them heavier, just sort of get them primed a little better than I did this round. So,
yeah, man.
The reality of it is, Justin, the thing is, you may want to just try exactly what you did again next year and see if anything changes on the snake's end. That's a big piece of advice I've heard from folks like Ryan Young. It's like, you really just, Keith McPeak with the rhythm of the room and everything. You really kind of sometimes have to let them find their rut.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's well put, man. It's well put. And who knows, man? This is her first time ever doing this, right?
Second clutch that I've gotten from her. First clutch was only 3 eggs, just like this clutch, but they were all duds.
Yeah, man, it could just be an age thing, man. You know what I mean? It could. She just may need another year.
It's entirely
or she
possible.
might need to settle into conditions.
Yeah. Well put. Yeah, I was talking to Stone again about this and some other Gagno stuff, and I don't remember what species it was, but he was saying one of the guys down in Texas, whatever, was dabbling with the whole calcium supplement thing, and getting to the point where he inadvertently had mom producing chicken eggs, where those eggs are not going to pip like at all. It's just they're rock hard. Yeah.
Yep.
And who knows if that was a factor, not in obviously the animal coming to term and not being able to get out of the egg, but what if that's a factor in terms of atmospheric transmission or humidity transmission or temperature transmission? You know what I mean? Who knows? Could be
absolutely
that mom made it too thick,
Well, the calcium, that's why I'm hesitant to do any calcium supplementation with those, because it's like those eggs are already just ridiculously thick, and I'm kind of wondering if what Stone was saying about them naturally degrading some way or another over time, and so that when they do hatch, they're actually able to get out, if there is something to that. And the first thing that makes me wonder what it would be like the pH or acidity of a given like soil or area or something. I don't know. It's going to require, again, more research, and I definitely want to hit up Henry and see if he can put some feelers out for some of his connections over there that are directly either collecting these or breeding them or both, and tell me what.
Yeah, he was actually just telling me that like 3 or 4 of his buddies in let me rephrase that, in Southeast Asia, I'll say, they stopped producing Indo Janseni because of issues like this, because of the inconsistencies and how difficult it is. And it's almost like, I don't want to say it's not worth their time, but they'd rather allocate that time and that passion to something that is a little more successful, at least to them. But there's obviously people still doing it. But yeah, I'll definitely hit him up and see what's what. It's funny you mentioned that, because him and I were just talking about it like 4 days ago.
Well, it's odd because there's a discrepancy too with like the oxys versus Jansenine. Like those don't seem to be nearly as difficult to get to hatch.
Yeah.
Jansenine in particular, man, there's just something going on there that's not the same. Like it's weird. I don't know exactly. I can't put my finger on it. Maybe, yeah, natural diet has less calcium, so I'm thinking they probably do eat more birds than mammalian type deals. I don't know if that would necessarily lead to less calcium though.
Who knows?
I mean, by weight, maybe because the bones are hollow. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that's the problem is like when you have no information, you're kind of having to start from a completely blank slate and going from there. Like there's a million routes you can go, and you just have to, like Jeff was saying with the maze, you just got to investigate them until you kind of find the right one that seems to add up and sort of follow that. And
do you have full spectrum lighting on them or no?
They do have UV.
BNA or just?
I think just B.
Okay. All right. Because I was going to say, I wonder if
that it's time to replace the bulb. So
I was going to say, I wonder if that is also playing a huge factor in terms of them metabolizing, well, for lack of a better word, metabolizing that vitamin D or whatever.
Yeah, calcifying it.
Yeah. You know, maybe they legitimately do need some kind of UV radiation for egg production. They may not need it to live, but
that was something that most told me. You know, maybe instead of supplementing with calcium directly, UV, you know, so that it's a little more of a natural sort of route. So they have had UV. I have to see if there's a full spectrum option for that same unit.
I'm sure Arcadia or somebody does. Arcadia does.
Because I think right now it's just a shade dweller. Is what I put in there. But
I mean, that's a good bulb. It's a good fixture. I had that on my Chondro. It was really nice. I liked it a lot. You know, you mentioned something interesting about like the pH of the soil and things like that, and I think that's something that's pretty often overlooked with some of these animals that we're keeping. And it's always, you know, as somebody who's trying to pioneer a way forward, you really got to look at that natural history so much more.
Yeah.
And even when we're looking at the natural history, you know, you have Kaufman and people like that going places and taking measurements and things. Of course, that's great, but what are the measurements that they're missing out on?
Yeah,
you know, they're looking at what we've done for the past 20 years, which is, you know, temperature, humidity, and now we've introduced this UV index. But, you know, look at aquariums, for instance. You know, I used to breed some cichlids, and the pH of the water could actually determine the sex of the fish, could determine whether it's going to be male or female, you know, or it will be a male or female heavy brood for them. So, I mean, we're not thinking about it in a full circular sort of way where I think we actually could be looking at the natural history of these animals. So I would say in the sense, and I gotta say this for the folks playing along at home, because I'm one of those, talking about Goniosoma Jansenii in this case, which I don't know the common name, but it's in the red-tailed green rat snake family.
Yeah, they've got like three. It's Celeb's black-tailed rat snake, Jansen's black-tailed rat snake.
So if I was going to go down that rabbit hole in that maze, I would be looking at, you know, people are producing some of the other Goniosoma species. What's different about these Jansenii in the wild?
Yeah.
You know, what's different in those environments and those microclimates specifically? You know, is it something like this egg is actually supposed to get wet so that it can actually deteriorate over time, like you're talking about? I mean,
see, that's
who knows how something like that plays
yeah.
in.
And on the Goniosoma.org site, which Freight Freitas wrote pretty much all the articles that are on that, because he did a lot with true Gonios for a while. His biggest thing was actually keeping them on the drier side because they seem to absorb water so much compared to other eggs that he's like, too much water, and those things will literally get to the point to where the outer shell will start to separate from that membrane underneath that.
Wow.
But that shell is so thick, it just sort of stretches and stretches and stretches, and he's like, it'll get to the point to where it will like physically pop because there's so much pressure in there and because there's too much water. So
interesting.
It's weird because it's such a thick shell. And I think because their incubation time is so long,
Yeah.
that's a reason why that eggshell is so thick, is because it's built to last and survive in the elements of a given place. But that's why I wonder if like the pH or acidity of a soil is meant to sort of counterbalance that, so that over time that eggshell, that calcium and stuff is sort of deteriorated enough for the animal to be able to get out, almost like a timer of sorts.
Right, because when you're thinking about it, if it's more acidic, it's going to take a bigger impact on that calcified egg. I mean, that's what acid does, is it breaks down calcium over time.
Yeah.
So,
is there any photos of their eggs in the wild?
Not that I know of. I've gone on iNat a few times and looked around, just because for a lot of the species I keep, I've done that just to sort of look at the environments and stuff they're in and see if there's anything noticeable in the background that sort of stands out. But I have not looked for anything as far as like in situ egg deposition, or anything like that. So
another thing to think about is you're talking about, you're saying 145 days, right? Something in that neighborhood. You're talking about a tropical location. We think about seasonality here. I'm in the Northeast. I'm in Maryland. We think about the seasonality here, but this is an area where you actually think of seasonality in wet and dry seasons. And 140 days, you're getting damn close to a half a year. So you're going through probably at least one wet season during that period. So, sometimes you think about chameleon eggs and tortoise eggs that have to go through these different climatic changes. I wonder if that's even a part of something along those lines.
Yeah, could very well be. Or even like alligators, where like they won't hatch unless or crocodile eggs where they won't hatch unless they get the moisture, because they know it's the rainy season or whatever. Or fly ripper.
Maybe it's a matter of like starting them off drier, and then the closer you get to that last bit of incubation, you up that humidity. I don't know.
Yeah, perhaps. I like Billy's way of thinking. 140 days, put isopods in there.
Yeah, you got the right kind. I've used like dwarf whites and some others before, and they tend to leave the eggs alone. But there's definitely a couple species that'll take a chunk out of it.
But my humble advice, just like I said before, just give it another year, just like it is. Start playing with those variables down the road. Take it scientifically, see what you got.
I got nothing but time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's how you got to think about it, honestly.
And dude, who knows? Next year she could just drop a massive clutch of normal eggs and everything goes status quo. Could just be age.
Yeah, like say again, there's like so many different factors and so many routes that could lead to it. Peat moss kind of came to mind too. Lisa mentioned add some of that because it's super acidic. That would kind of be what my that would be the route that I would go if I were going to do it. So be interesting to at least try out.
A little jealous of Lisa saying that she met Ron Whitaker yesterday. It's pretty rad too.
I was just going to say that's incredible. So cool, Lisa. So cool.
I've got a friend who gets on the phone with Naya Haast pretty often, and I'm jealous every time. I'm like, if she's ever in town, you got to introduce me, right?
Yeah, that's pretty awesome as well. That's pretty cool, man. The stories I can only imagine.
Oh yeah.
So
and this is an old timer too, so always back and forth.
Oh yeah.
Why are condors and rhinos the best snakes ever?
Ooh, that's a good question. Probably because they're not.
That was good. I was like, man, where are we going with this? Excellent.
I do love them. I love a green snake. I posted on my Instagram. I found a little rough green the other day. Very, very tempted to keep it, but a couple things working against me there. At work, I'm on a national park property. Not a national park, but a park property. And so that's very much illegal. And secondly, thinking to myself that rough greens are so difficult to take care of, being insectivores and the UV. And I look at it and I'm like, I want that challenge. And I think about it in my daily life and I'm like, I do not want that challenge.
Yeah.
But something like rhinos are something I'd love to get into. I love the Asiatic rat snakes. Always had a big love for those. Rhinos and Moellendorffi. I'd love to do Moellendorffi again, which is 100-flower rat snakes for those playing along. Alafe Moellendorffi. Chondros are the shit too, but they're they're really boring snakes to keep, to be completely honest.
They ain't no Mondorfi, bro.
Extremely.
No, like they're so easy to keep. I keep mine in ambient and pop that UV on, for a certain number of hours a day, making sure to give him shade so that he can get away from it, but God, it's an easy snake. Honestly, it's when things go wrong, that's the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Or people are given horrible advice and they make it wrong inadvertently.
Absolutely.
They unknowingly ruin everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was guilty of that myself. Like I got my chondra, I made a beautiful cage for it and everything. And all the while, the breeder, who's actually, the person I got it from is Brad Waffa, but it was bred by someone else. Can't remember at the time. But I went home and put it in this beautiful display cage, and Brad had been telling me, and Shalimar, his lovely wife, had been telling me this thing's been in a 15-quart tub. Yes. Of course, the thing doesn't eat for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And I shove it in a 6-quart tub because that's all I got at the time ready to go. And yep, first time I try, takes a mouse right away.
It's wild, man. It's wild how that happens,
Well, you think you know better. You just need to fucking listen.
Yeah. Or even still, like, you want it to be the best, and you want it to be as natural as you can. Meanwhile, the snake's like saying to itself, "Just put me in the fucking jail cell."
Right. Right. Exactly.
Where's my paper towel and my stick?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love to give stuff big enclosures and everything like that, but should I deal with a lot of ball pythons still? And that's not what they want. It is a rare ball python that wants a 4x2.
Don't tell the internet that.
I know, God forbid. Just need to stuff it full of everything in the world, right?
That's right. Make it like one of those foam pits that they use at like the gymnastics places. Just fill it up so that it just can swim. It's a giant sand boa.
The boxes. McDonald's ball pit.
That's right.
Yeah.
Complete with Gonosypha herpalades.
Yep. Just Purell me afterward. Just douse me.
The mites will never find their way out.
Yeah, right. Ugh.
What is your current collection, though?
It is, I would say, predominantly pythons and rat snakes. I am slimming down a little bit right now. I had a terrible loss a couple weeks ago. I lost a 6-year-old southern white-lipped python who was just the fucking world. And that was really rough on me. And before that, I had already made the decision to slim down the collection and kind of refocus myself, help myself get back on top of 100% proper care, put things in bigger enclosures and things like that. So I'm still going to keep some of the piebald ball pythons that I have to keep breeding that, because the world needs more of those. And I say that because you put that snake in front of somebody who doesn't like snakes and they're too fascinated to be scared of it.
Yep. Well said. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Especially a baby. I will always continue to breed those. As long as there's a market for them, as soon as I see one in an animal shelter, I'm stopping. For that matter, not to say ball pythons. I'm not producing normals or pastels or anything like that. I just had a clutch of Candino black pastel ball pythons. Some of Bill Stiegel's animals from a little while ago. But yeah, I've got some Asian rat snakes. I've got a few corns. I have a Baird's rat snake. I actually have a couple out for show and tell if you want.
Always.
Yeah, so I only got a corn and my Baird's because I've been talking to Justin about these a little bit. So, let's see here.
Oh, those 2 Baird's eggs have started to hatch as well. In other news,
Nice.
One of them is out. The other one is still just hanging out.
And these were the unknown lineage adults.
The wild caught male that Chris sent me, and then the undocumented female.
Very cool.
I'm really anxious to see the one that's still sitting in the egg, because I cut the egg after a couple days of it not pipping after the other one, and that one looks really interesting. Just the pattern looks busier and stuff, so I'm anxious to see it. But there we go, the all-American rat snake.
Yeah, little Baird's here. It's
That's right.
gorgeous.
Oh yeah.
You got to get the close-ups on these animals. You know, you really just don't get it from seeing them from above. But then you get one in your hands, and I'll be honest, this is a female, and she's I'd say she's close to 4 years now.
Mm-hmm.
But this is about as big as she is because, like we were saying last week, just small meals, man. You try to give them too big of a meal, and they're going to start regurging.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, too big, too wet. That's it. And then, you know, I thought all bets were off at one point with this girl, and I put her back down to like fuzzy mice, and you know, she was similar in size to this. And for folks who can't see listening, you're talking about basically a 3-foot snake who's as thick as my thumb. You know, I'm not a small guy, but
still,
yeah.
I think that's Chris and I were talking the other day in the Corn Stars group chat about that, and it seems to be a desert species thing because it's the same with like subox and the same with you know. Centicollis and that kind of stuff. They just smaller, you know. They just like pretty much the way I explained it was whatever you would give a corn snake of the same size, you're giving a Baird's that a size down from that.
Yeah,
like you know, every now and then you could push them and do something bigger, but I'm at a point now where it's like I'm not even going to bother rolling those dice. I'm just going to give them a couple rat pups or something and call it. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I've got some carpets and brettles. I've got probably the most of a singular species that I've got other than ball pythons or brettles. I got my hands on a nice hypo from Eric Kohler a little while ago. And that was my dream snake at that point. You know, well, it had been for a long time, was a hypo brettles. And once I got that, I was like, you know what? I'm good.
Still convinced, man, that's one of the best pet snakes of all time, dude.
Oh yeah. So this is a little corn I got. This is one we were talking about last week, and you know, sold to me as an A male, but I'm like, yeah, it's an A male, but there's probably some red factor or something going on in there. Who knows? But yeah, she's double clutched in a year before. As a matter of fact, we talked about the first time breeding a female. The first time that she bred for me, you know, she was big enough and everything. She just didn't have the age to her.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up actually having to palpate an egg to her vent, drain it with a syringe with my buddy Howard, and actually palpate it all the way out because she laid a bunch of slugs, you know, 2 eggs that looked good, but they weren't eventually. Like I said, if they're good eggs, they're probably going to go the distance.
Yeah.
But in her case, she was just too young at the time, and I was too anxious.
Now, how old is that snake you're holding right now?
So this snake I got as a sub-adult, I want to say about 4 years ago. So
okay, so just for the listeners, he's got a 4-year-old corn out right now, and it is longer and thicker than the 4-year-old Baird eye.
Oh, by a lot.
By a lot.
Yeah,
and
this is twice the snake.
So anyone who's like, oh, I don't know, the Baird's rat snake, like they have it in their mind. Like I had in my mind that the thing got like yellow rats, like it's going to get like 7 foot and eaten out.
No, they get long, but they don't get thick. Like
they are long and skinny.
My biggest male Baird's, he's probably pushing like 4.5 feet.
Yeah,
and he's about as thick as my thumbs, just like Jeff was saying. Like they're not a beefy rat snake by any means.
Yeah. So it just goes to show you another check mark on the awesome pet snake list, you know?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The Bairds are an awesome snake to keep, honestly. I mean, I think if you can keep a suboc, Bairds are going to be easier for you.
Yeah, no, without a doubt.
You know, and if you can keep a corn snake, you can keep a Bairds. It's just cut that meal size in half and feed it just slightly more often. You know, and you're rocking and rolling. My mom had a suboc back in the day, late 90s, early 2000s. It was, you know, she liked to get some things and try them out. And, you know, we had some friends that were in the hobby, if you will, the discipline, I think Zach Loafman recently called it. And we didn't know a lot at the time, especially about subocs, you know, and keeping them dry, so important.
Yeah.
You know, and when we say suboc, subocularis, you're talking about the Trans-Pecos rat snake.
Yeah, man.
Small water bowls.
I finally have the room dialed in for all my desert stuff, and the temperate North American colubrids, they're kind of suffering. So now I've made humid hides and changed their enclosures, but I literally let the suboc bowls dry out, and that's when once they're dried out, then I take them, wipe out the funk, and then I add new water. That way I know that it's not just festering humidity in their enclosure. So
yep. With good ventilation, I let my Baird's bowl dry out before I feed it.
Yeah.
And I won't give it water again after I fed it for a couple days.
Yeah.
They're just in tune to it. It's what they need. It's what they want.
Yeah, man. For sure. The
human hide thing.
Thank you.
I was really surprised at how many of my animals, even if they weren't something that was more on the drier side. You give a Baird's a humid hide, they're going to use it. I gave a lot of my corns humid hides. They were in them all the time. The Diones are all about them. I actually rehydrated the one in the Jansen I set up because it had gotten dry, and I got that nice and wet again. And as soon as I put that back in there, that female, just as soon as she figured out that it was humid again, she made a beeline for it and was all about it. And she was in and out of it today a lot too.
They really love it. They really do.
Yeah, it's interesting just how drawn to it they are.
Now, interestingly, with my mandarin rat snakes, I actually just turned the whole tub into a humid hide. That's just so much of where they want to be. If you give them a humid hide, they're just going to stay in it.
Yeah, it's funny to watch just the individuals too, because I've got some corns that if I give them a humid hide, they'll use it every now and then, and I've got some that just they will live in it.
I think that speaks to the really expansive range that the corns have. You could be talking about something that's got lineage from somewhere that's quite drier, in comparison, so to say like a Miami locality, it's going to be wet down there, Dade County.
Yeah.
But you get up somewhere north, like the coastal plains, like New Jersey, Pine Barrens and things like that, you're not going to be getting that humidity. Right. You're not going to have a snake that really wants that. So I think it's really interesting to see, especially with the North American rat snakes that have that really expansive range. You're talking about the Pantherophis specifically. You could have an individual snake that wants nothing to do with what another one finds absolute paradise.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting to see what makes use of them and what is fairly indifferent to them,
Yeah. But, have you tried humid hides? I know you do like the ceiling hides for your rhinos. Is that right? Or is that for your Jansens?
I was doing those for when I was using the Python portal setups from Brahms. Yeah. Have the elevated hides. But since I'm not using those currently, I saved them all. I didn't get rid of them. I'm staring at one of them, and I've got like 3 more up in the attic, and it drives my wife crazy. But those were used a lot. And the only reason I don't have them in with a Jansen eye is I don't have the space to put one with the lighting and stuff.
Sure.
And there's a heat pad in there that I don't even keep turned on. It's not even plugged in. But I could reasonably take that out and hang one if I wanted to, and they would use it.
I'm curious if you ever thought about turning one of those into a humid high up high.
Yeah, I never tried it with the Boiga. I thought about it, but I
bet they'd love it.
Yeah.
Being tree hollow dwellers and things like that. Yeah. Boiga, cat-eyed snakes, folks.
Yeah, Jeff, man, I'm really happy that you keep doing that because it's something that I mean to remind us to do, and I'm glad you're doing it.
It's something I brought up on your Q&A.
Yeah,
a long time ago, and you're either you can switch back and forth, of course, but you're either a Latin or a common name kind of person a lot of times, and you guys are Latin name guys.
Yeah,
and that's cool.
And I think even if people are a Latin name person, it's sometimes difficult with people's accents or dialogue. And let's face it, no one's pronouncing it the correct classical Latin way or, ancient Greek way. So like if somebody says Ganyasoma, and they say we've said that a lot of times tonight, right? Ganyasoma,
Yeah.
Ganyasoma. And I go and I'm listening. I'm a listener, and I Google and I'm like, I'm spelling it Ganyasama because that's what it sounds like. I'm not going to find it. You know what I mean? But if we do what you've been doing all night, which I love, and that's saying Ganyasoma, you know, Asian rat snake, they can tell you, or green rat snake, or whatever. It helps that Google search, or it helps that, you know, that book flip through real quick, and that's something we gotta strive to continue to do. So I like it.
Yeah, we had recently at work. I work at a place called the Akaki Foundation, and we steward a national park property, Piscataway Park. We're looking at the shoreline ecology and things like that, and we want to start doing surveys along those things. So we had a gentleman out from the Smithsonian Institution. We're really pretty close to Washington, D.C., where I am, right down the Potomac River from there. And, you know, he is the curator of bivalves for the Smithsonian Institution at the Natural History Museum.
That's cool.
And he's saying, you know, the common name is common for a reason. It's what people call him. You know, he's not throwing out all these Latin Grecian names, whatever it is. He's just saying, you know, this is so-and-so mollusk, or whatever the case is. You know, it's like, there is a reason for a common name, but also there's a reason for that scientific name, or that binomial name, or trinomial name in some cases, because you go to a foreign country, your common name's not going to be their common name.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10. Or even here in the Eastern United States, you know, Phil, what do you call a black rat snake?
A black rat snake. Exactly.
But you got black rat snakes, you got Eastern rat snakes.
Well, that's the thing too, is that even if you go off of new taxonomy, no one calls an Eastern rat snake, a yellow rat snake, or even an Everglades rat snake. No one calls it Alleganensis.
No.
They just call it a yellow rat snake or a black rat snake. Yeah, right. So even though we may, as nerds, know that it's Pantherophis alleganensis, no one's calling it that. But then you also have stuff like Bairdi or Bairds, where the scientific name is the common name, you know? So
yeah, I mean, all credit to Baird, all credit to the man just talking about the Natural History Museum in DC. It's a shit common name.
Yeah.
You know, in reality, let's go with something descriptive. You know, like you talk about certain species and things, and it's the descriptive way to go about it is really the best way. When you can decipher that Latin or that Greek, and you can just say, oh, okay, this snake is supposed to be having a colorful neck or something along those lines.
Sure.
You know, and it's like, all right, so why don't we call it the whatever colored neck snake?
Yeah. And then I feel like it also is because of our community, everybody has slang, everyone has shortened stuff. So like a lot of people say Trans-Pecos rat snake, but in the community, it's not. It's a suboc, which isn't technically the scientific name. It's the first part of the species name. So it's not even like saying subocularis. It's just shortened to suboc. But in actuality, it's the Trans-Pecos rat snake. So because we're lazy or want to talk quick, I don't know, we just say suboc.
Right, absolutely. Or we say chondro.
Yeah, it's because
we take it to the whole genus level.
Oh, I had someone that was on Instagram that was very upset that I did a shirt that said chondro python.
Oh, yikes!
Like he was out for blood, and I just kind of laughed.
Hilarious,
dude. It's not. It's easily. If you're gonna make a shirt, at least use the right nomenclature.
No,
I was like, are you sure they're not still chondro python? I thought they were. Like at that point, I just started messing with them. It's like, are you sure?
Yeah, and no one's denying the current taxonomy. It's just forever in our slang going to be chondros. Yeah, that's it.
Can you fellas still hear me okay? I had to switch out my headphones so I could plug in my phone here.
Yeah,
you sound
getting
good.
Low on percentage. All right, great, thank you.
StreamYard will burn through some battery.
Yeah, it sure did. It burned through a lot more than I thought it would.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the nomenclature thing we've talked about. I mean, that for me, it's just it's spillover from my invertebrate days where common names are not used like at all. You know, just by default.
Oh yeah,
that was
And now, like
Where
now,
am I?
the scorpion and spider taxonomy that you and I grew up with, because we're nerds, that shit does not exist. It is so
It all
split.
changed.
It is, and it's not split like, oh, we took 5 species and we made it 7. No, it's like we took 5 species and we made it 46.
Yeah.
So I don't even try with the inverts anymore. Maybe that's just me being lazy, but it's just too much.
I don't even know if is haplopelma even a thing anymore.
No, I don't think it is.
No.
And like Aviculara got split into like 3 different genera. So who knows?
Yeah, they got kind of weird with Avix. I don't.
Yeah, I remember going to a show and looking for a pink-toed tarantula, that's what it is, right? Aviculara, brachypelma, or no,
Yep.
not brachypelma.
No, it's Aviculara.
Yeah. And talking to a spider nerd about it, and them going, yeah, which one? I'm like, hold on a second.
Yeah. And I know it was the standard pink toe was Aviculara, and
Correct.
now it's something else. I think it's something else Aviculara, which is
I think you're right.
something. I don't know.
I don't know. I think the Antilles pink toes got reclassified to Carabana.
Yeah, but they're still versicolor.
Yes. I don't know how they do that, especially when you're dealing with all those old world tarantulas that are all like the same shade of black, but there's somehow like 30 different species.
Yep.
Yep. That was so when I was keeping haplopelma, which I think they're all now Cereopagopus. I had a Von Worthy, but then it was like, is it a Von Worthy or is it a Minax? And you look at pictures and they look identical, and someone would be like, "Oh, well, you have to look on the underside at the bottom of the palps and see if it's a slightly different shape than something else or something just ridiculous along those lines." And it's like, I'm just gonna go ahead and assume it's one or the other. Obviously, I mean, I don't know. I know I don't want to mess with it. I know I don't want to get bit by it.
That's right.
Oh.
So, you're muted, buddy.
As a pet spider, does it really matter? Like the husbandry is the same, the feeding is the same, everything's the same.
Yeah, I've got a what is it, Brachypelma homorii now, the red knee tarantula, and I've wanted to know for a while what sex it is, and I do not have the patience to wait for the shed, grab the shed, pull it out, look under a loop or a magnifying glass of some sort, and try to figure all that shit out.
Yep.
It's just a cool spider to have, And it's been around, it's kicking. It's the easiest pet I've ever taken care of in my life.
How long have you had it?
Oof, 2-3 years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is its abdomen bulbous?
Not particularly. So I think it might be.
Yeah, it's probably a boy.
Male.
Yeah.
Which is okay with me. I don't need a spider for 20 years.
Yeah.
It's amazing the people you can get past snakes, but you can't get past spiders.
Yeah, and you know what? And that's such a good species to it's very much the like we talked about piebald ball pythons. It's a great spider to help, but at the same time, if they're not even willing to get near it or even look at it, then it's a whole other story.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting because you have something like a bird eater that's just like a huge spider, obviously the largest spider in the world. And people are going to look at that the way that they look at that piebald ball python. It's too fascinating to look away from.
Yeah.
But, the homorii, the red knee, it's a cool spider. And for me, it was the one that was on the eyewitness books for tarantulas or spiders when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So it was like, I need that one. That one specifically.
What was the old species name? Was it Smith-eye?
Smith-eye.
Smith-eye, yeah.
And there is still a Smith-eye now, but it's not. It's a different red knee.
Okay.
Yeah.
I always wanted some of those erratum, man. Those flame knees.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, totally.
Those are cool.
Those are expensive, though.
Well, and like I remember having my best spider I had, like even better than the pulchra, the Brazilian blacks, like as placid as the now I can't remember the species name with the G.
Chileans? No.
Yeah. So
Chilean rose hair.
No, not even the rose hairs.
The
the Chacos, excuse me.
Oh yeah.
Grandma, the whatever, I don't remember the species name, but the Grammostola that came, the Golden Chaco, whatever it's called.
Mm-hmm.
I had a huge one. I had one that was bigger than my hand, and that was like the pet spider, and like everyone would want to hold it and play with it, but it didn't look like the Smith eye, or forgive me, the Mexican red knee.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore people would be like, oh no, get it away from me. It's big, creepy and brown. But if I pulled out that red knee, even though the red knee was a dick and it would kick hairs and run away,
Yeah.
because of the aesthetics of it, they were more eager to interact with the red knee than they were the giant brown puppy dog. So
yeah, I mean, that was my life for
OBT.
15 years, was
dude,
making the aesthetic of something more important, to get people to take a look at it. So it feeds right into it. OBTs, orange bitey things.
OBTs are fun.
Give you
I've really considered, because they're a gorgeous spider. And for the most part, I don't handle my Homori. I don't handle my red knee. I will
very much.
Yeah, that's the problem.
And when you do, it's typically not that enjoyable. It's usually.
It was the same thing for cobalts, right? Like, I was looking at the cobalt tarantula, and I'm like, well, it's a beautiful spider that you'll never see.
I think I would see mine once a quarter for about 2 seconds at 3 a.m. randomly on a night when I get up to go to the bathroom, and that would be the extent of it.
Yeah.
Well, did I ever tell you about my cobalt traumatic experience?
No, I don't think you did.
So I was working for Jay Eaton back in, I don't know, 2006, 2007, something like that. And he had just got a shipment in from Malaysia. And there was like 200 cobalt blues. And every single spider, I would say 90% of them were male. And every single spider was in a small black film canister. Like the little black film canisters that you'd have your Fujifilm.
Oh, so they weren't like adults.
It doesn't matter. It's a friggin' cobalt blue. I don't care if it's the size.
Still got the potent venom.
I mean, but it's easier to work with something smaller than a pissed off adult.
No, these were stuffed in there, bro.
Yeah, you just pull out the paper that
there is no
in.
paper. It's just a loose spider.
They just
you're talking about it coming from Malaysia.
Yeah, I'm talking
You're
about.
Lucky they didn't stuff them in a Coke bottle.
All right. Here, I have a standard cigarette pack. Okay, let me hold this for scale.
Sure.
The spider was as big, if not bigger, than the cigarette pack. The film canister was the size of this lighter.
Well, then how the hell did they get them in the canisters?
Exactly. That's the psycho part. And every single film canister had a small pinhole in the top for air, but they're black. So you can't see if you can't see if it's facing down. You can't see if it's facing up. You can't even see if it's alive in there. And there was maybe 5 or 6 of them that had passed away in shipping for whatever reason. But I had containers inside of containers with welding gloves and hemostats, and I had to transfer 200 friggin' lunatic cobalt blues fresh off the boat into deli cups. And after I did like 150 of them, I quit, and I was like, I'm done. That's it. I'm no more for me. And I never touched one ever again. But none of them got loose, and I did all of them. So
I mean, that's like being handed I mean, it's not quite as bad, but imagine being handed an opaque tub with a black mamba inside of it.
Yeah.
You can't see where the thing is. You just got to open it up. Best of luck to you.
Dude, honestly, I would rather deal with the mamba. I would. It's easier to control.
They can't climb, inverted surfaces.
Exactly. Yeah. Mambas can't teleport like cobalt blues can.
Right. Yeah. That's wild.
So, Jeff, man, how's the art coming, bro?
How do you art?
How do you art?
I got to do art for work, and I had to do it for work for so long that I kind of rebelled against it. For a long time, I was on a big sabbatical. Right. I've been doing a lot of things recently. My partner and I were putting together what we're calling Persephone's Pop-Up, which is going to be a little witchy Halloween type market one night thing in Southern Maryland in the woods. It's beautiful. So I've been doing a little bit more art for that.
Cool, man.
What I love doing art-wise is like the thing that we did. Shout out to Slate Reed, the boy. Ryan Reed, Slate Reed. hope good things are coming to those folks.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing well.
Being able to be a part of that auction and make something meaningful,
Yeah.
that's the shit that I'm about, man.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
I love doing stuff like that. I love art that has an impact. And really the past few years for me has been stopping trying to be, you know, the gouache paintings that we saw in these nature books as we were kids, and making the most perfect representation of something. Like, I got there, I could do it, but that's not fulfilling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you're just a really talented Xerox machine.
And I feel like, and I feel like although we love and appreciate those old extreme realism, we have such advancements in photography now that you almost don't need, I don't want to say you don't need it, because you should always have it, but for you to be able to expand and have more artistic expression in it and make it a little more unique, I'm with you. I get it.
Yeah, and it's really the stuff that speaks to people too, is because what people want out of art is really something emotional. They want an emotional experience. And some of us, you know, some of us are the nerds that look in the book and we go, that animal right there is the animal that I want to own, and I am inspired for the rest of my life to keep that. Absolutely. So many of us do that from a photograph now, like you're saying, Phil.
Yeah.
And I think at a certain point, I put so much more of my representative artwork into photography, and sort of took myself a different way, or trying to take myself a different way, with less representative, more abstract, more emotional, more conceptual things. But I'm not ready to share it with the world quite yet. And just like the rest of us, especially us reptile folks, we're typically pretty bad about sharing what's going on in our lives on social media, things like that. I ditched Facebook, must have been 6 or 7 years ago. I've still got a dummy profile on there. Don't like me, don't be my friend. I won't accept it. So good luck finding it. Hands of Jeff as a Facebook page, art page or whatever, has been seriously neglected for the past few years. And I have no intention of getting back to it. Sorry, everybody.
It's because Facebook sucks.
Yeah, it does. And social media sucks. You know, let's be honest. It's you're taking techniques that end people's lives in rehab, and you're putting them into, you know, social media.
Yeah, but all right, I'm gonna jump in real quick and say that that if it wasn't for a lot of social media, we may not know the people that we know and cherish in our lives right now. We may not have gained the knowledge of some things that we've learned or experienced or what have you. So I love our social media, but the influencers and the viral videos and the trends,
the fake shit.
Yeah. But I think,
look, I can talk all the shit I want. I wouldn't be here talking to you boys if it wasn't for social media.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's exactly.
I thought Phil was about to rant as to like setting up the Venom Exchange radio page, because I mean Facebook sucks in the regard of like page management and stuff.
Oh
now.
yeah, I forgot about that. Thanks for reminding me.
Make it worse and worse. Like they keep doing it, thinking they're making it easier for everybody, but it's just getting more and more confusing. And it's to the point now to where it's like, if stuff doesn't get posted to Facebook on the pages and stuff, I'm like, whatever, I don't care anymore. Like, I'm tired of having to use the Meta Business Suite to do anything on a page. Like, it's so convoluted and it's so over the top now. Like,
I felt like such an old FUD because I couldn't figure out how to delete the bad page that I had just made 5 minutes prior.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I don't like this. This is the wrong layout. I needed to do the business one, blah, 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 blah. I could not. I had to Google how to delete a Facebook page. And like, I'm not the most tech savvy guy, but come on.
Yeah. And I mean, I lost a lot of people off of Facebook. I lost a lot of really good connections when I ditched it, to be honest. And there are plenty of times that I want it back. Right. There are plenty of times that I'm like, man, I wonder what's going on in this person's life, that person's life. This is where they share photos. This is where the conversations are really happening. And I do feel like, especially as a member of the reptile community, that I'm missing out on that, because it's where those things are happening. It's where so many of those conversations are happening, especially now. Like, that may change in the future, but right now it's where it's at.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I guess for me, it's not sort of abolishing that system, so to speak. It's really more finding the balance of not allowing it to be gamifying my life.
Yeah.
Where I'm posting something and chasing this, that, and the other. And I was getting there to a certain point with Instagram. I've got a number of followers on Instagram, but it was getting to the point where they were changing the algorithms that you had to really put yourself in the way that they want you to do things.
Yeah.
You know, and they're pushing content
it's pay to
together.
play. You have to you want to get seen, you have to buy ads. Like, it took them a long time to finally get around to making that the route things go, but that's 100% how it is now. It's like, you want to the days of like organic reach and things like that are definitely not, they're a thing of the past. I think it's not, and they keep saying they're trying to figure out a way to make it more organic for people. And it's like, it's crap.
Wow.
Like, if I give you $20 for an ad for a week, you're gonna, all of a sudden I'm gonna get all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
it's crap.
Yeah,
and they're so
and
desperately. No, go ahead, Jeff. Sorry.
No, please, Phil.
No, I was just gonna say that they're desperately trying. Like Instagram, for example. I love Instagram because we have the ability to communicate with each other, and we're sharing our experiences, we're sharing our photos. And that's why I got into Facebook to begin with, was to do that. So now I finally have a platform that is everything that I'm looking for out of it. However, going back to Smitty's ads, every third picture from my friends is trying to sell me something, trying to sell me something, trying to sell me something. And then I find out that they're doing all the, like, the reels, right? And they're trying to compete with TikTok, and people's attention span has gone from being a 5-minute attention span to a 15-second attention span. Sure. But it didn't matter what hashtags I put or what taglines I put. It was the music. And I would have a video that was me with this amazing creature, right, in the wild. And I got the 20 or 30 views and likes from my friends. That was the sole purpose of posting it. It was to share it with our community, right? But then another video was like me showing off tweezers. Like, look at these tweezers. In case anyone wants to know, these are good tweezers. And because of the music I picked, it had 10,000 views. And that just goes to show you, like, it doesn't matter what I'm doing or what I'm writing. It's the song I picked happened to
Cardi B makes the difference, man.
There you go. There you go.
Meg the Stallion, right, Justin?
But what were you saying? What were you saying, Jeff? Sorry, man.
Oh, no, not at all. No, I agree with you 100%. I think you really touched on some of the points that I was going to make there. So, well said.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. And Lisa's got a great point. You know, it's where the conversations are happening, and it's a great resource for that if you are cautious about what you're putting your energy into.
Yeah.
I'm not. Not always, I should say.
Yeah, I just, Instagram being so much simpler to navigate and use and stuff, and especially on the side of like business pages and things like that, I just find it so much easier to deal with that than Facebook. And
sure,
don't get me wrong, as much as I bitch about the ads and them trying to shove stuff down my throat and buy this and buy that, I'm pretty guilty of buying some cool shit off Instagram. I will say that. And like,
no doubt, I had some bitchin' stickers come in the other day.
Yeah, and like, dude, like some stuff I didn't even know existed. I'm like, oh my god, I need that in my life. I can link my PayPal. Okay, no problem.
Yeah, Lisa, there is no good way to search on Instagram. Honestly,
yeah. I just, it's something I think about a lot, is to like, is social media overall a good thing? Is it neutral? Is it not great? And I don't know. It seems to be, depends on the day as to my feelings on it. I think if you're in a lot of groups on Facebook, it's very easy to get trapped into the sort of this mental cycle of, you know, the hobby's going down the tubes, everything's horrible, you know, the world is crashing.
It's
and
an echo chamber.
Yeah,
very much so. And this is like, you get out of the groups and you're going to make your life a lot easier, you know. That's what I did, at least.
Yeah, absolutely. And I look at it, I always talk to people. I used to be a teacher for a little while. And I would always tell students and things. I grew up in the public school system. This is, it's not a particularly affluent county that I'm from. It's right outside of DC that I'm originally from. And I tell people the public school system is what you make it, and I would say absolutely the same thing is true of any social media.
Yeah.
The tools are there to make it fantastic for yourself, and the tools are also there to make it a living hell for yourself.
Yep.
Yeah. Well said, man. Well said.
But snakes, right?
Yeah, dude, that's why we're on there. That's why we're on there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and when they did away with the animal sales, I really saw a big downturn in the engagement that was happening. And, there was a lot that people were trying to do behind the scenes with their emojis and things like that. But Facebook quickly caught on to a lot of that stuff.
Well, and that's something else that I couldn't figure out was you're not allowed to sell living creatures. Okay. I can understand that. I can get that from multiple different points of view.
But you can buy a GIMP suit from Wish.
Well, that's completely unrelated, and yes, you can. Zed's dead.
We see what kind of ads are coming up for Smitty.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for saying that out loud. Now Instagram's listening in my pocket. Jeez, I'm gonna get all kinds of zipper ads. Check out these new KKY zippers.
Spice up sex night with this Slipknot mask set.
You yourself can be Joey Jordison for a night.
Right.
You have his snare drum, don't you?
Role play as clown.
Anyway.
No, I had some of his Pro Marks when he was with Pro Mark.
Okay. I thought you had his snare drum. I always wanted his snare drum. Anyway, I digress. So now I lost my thought. Damn it.
You were buying things off Facebook.
No. That's right. We're talking about how
recommendations.
Not allowed to sell living creatures on social media. Yes. Okay, cool. I understand that, but people will put, hey, I have these available. Hit me up. Cool. Totally harmless. And only the people that are interested in that animal are going to hit them up. Rock and roll. But then they get mad. And it's like, then that slips into that serious inquiries only. Well, that makes me not want to message you at all. Enjoy your animal.
Yep.
So sorry, that was like a micro soapbox. My apologies.
No, absolutely. You're absolutely right, though. And we talked about that a little bit last week.
Yeah.
It's just like, get off your fucking soapbox. Get off your high horse.
Yeah.
Come join the rest of us.
Yep.
It's what are you thinking about yourself that you're too good to respond to a message? Like, I totally get it if the message is either a penis or, a how much message. Right. But at the same time, sometimes that's all, well, not the dick pic, but sometimes that all people have time for is how much, or is this animal still available, or, people are shy, man. People have social anxiety. They don't want to send a message.
Yeah. Yeah. I can understand that. I can understand that.
But at the same time, it's also your own personal boundaries. You set the boundaries on what you're going to deal with. And if you don't feel like answering to it, then fuck them.
Yeah.
And if you want to go out and make a tirade about, no tire kickers, low ballers, no looky-loos or anything like that, then, enjoy your snakes for the next few years.
Yeah, exactly.
Best of luck to you.
Yeah. Dude, I use the eye roll emoji more than any other emoji.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you always been artistically inclined?
I wasn't until about middle school. I was one of those that could probably pull off a hieroglyphic or two, as Phil was talking about earlier. And then I guess it was a little bit of confidence that came into it, and somebody saying, "Hey, I kind of like that. Why don't you try a little more?" And getting that encouragement. Man, that can be so tough for kids, right? There's so many people out there that are probably keeping a sketchbook themselves that are too scared to show someone what's in it.
Of course.
And not even just to get advice, but just to be encouraged. I see people with photos or drawings or things like that end up on the internet, or quite frankly don't. And it's like, well, someone told me to post this, and it's like, well, I'm so glad that they did.
Yeah.
I try to follow a aspiring artists as well on Instagram, and you know, just be in life and on social media just as real of a person as I can be, but be supportive. You know, there's so many voices in the world that are kicking you while you're down. You know, what's it hurt to uplift somebody to be like, hey, that's neat, that's cool.
Yeah.
You know, keep going. I want to see more of this. I want to see more of what you do. And
Absolutely.
I think part of that, of course, is, you know, thinking of how I was treated when I was younger, you know, and what we need. Sorry, Schmitty, go ahead.
Well, like with art in particular, you know, that's for a lot of people, that's such a personal thing, and to sort of
Absolutely
open that up to interpretation or criticism from other people is kind of scary for some people, and not, you know, it's kind of like doing a podcast.
Yeah.
You know,
we talked about
first couple times you do it, you're like, this is horrible. People are going to hate it. Like, I don't want it. And then it's like people sort of, they're like, hey, I dig it. And you're like, oh, maybe we don't suck as much as I thought we did. Like,
right. Maybe this is worth pursuing.
Yeah.
And look where you are now. Almost 200 episodes on both shows, you know, and you got a whole fucking network and clothing company and everything. Sometimes, Smitty, I just hope that you do, and Phil, you as well, and Jake and the crew do look back on it and say, damn, I'm doing a good job.
Yeah, man.
You know, honestly, I don't think it's not patting yourself on the back. You know, I've always had that bias against myself of being too cocky.
Yeah,
it's not patting yourself on the back. It's looking at your accomplishments. And sometimes, you know, people like myself, people like others, they need you to point it out to them, you know, especially when you're in a certain mood or anything. But goddamn, look back at what y'all have accomplished and, you know, congratulate yourself for it.
Yeah, man.
It
still gets me, man, from time to time. It does. It
absolutely.
It really does, man. Especially now, like
Mark O'Shea, Phil.
I know. It's crazy.
You know, I did finish listening to the part 1 of the interview, and it was fantastic. Congratulations on that.
Thanks,
that's
man.
I
really appreciate that.
Yeah, that's huge.
I really appreciate that.
And you know, what I really enjoyed about it so much is he seemed to enjoy himself on the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I will say, and I'll toot your horn a little bit, it's not blowing smoke up your ass. I put the cigar down a little while ago when I dropped it in my fruit punch.
I saw your face and I knew it. I was like, oh my God, he just ashed in his drink. He just ashed in his drink.
The whole cigar went in my drink.
Oh.
Because I was using it as a stand, but then it got too sharp.
Oh, no.
I'm still drinking it. Don't worry.
Okay,
but
good.
I've heard Mark O'Shea on podcasts before. And yeah, he's having a good time because he's talking about snakes. But with y'all, with you and Nipper, it was a pub.
Yeah.
You know, there should have been a pint in front of you all having the discussion, because it seemed like that type of conversation. It was so down to earth, and it was so like, I'm going to geek out over these little dirt snakes. And, you know, you started talking about the stilettos, and you could hear him light up.
Yeah.
Talking about that kind of stuff. You know, and that was awesome. That was awesome to hear. And again, congratulations to you and Nipper on that. I know Nipper brought him from a familiar place, and it probably opened him up a little bit more.
Yeah,
but
most definitely.
Please don't discount your own contribution to that, Phil, because you're nerding out over, you know, these niche species is what really got him going in some of those instances.
Thank you so much, bro. I really like legit really appreciate that, man. I do.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Can't wait for part 2, talking about Poplar and everything.
Oh, it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah. And the shit you're doing with Venomous Etiquette videos and stuff, like, it's been helpful to me already, having to move copperheads off the road.
Cool, man. I'm glad. That's awesome. That's why I made them. So hopefully someone can get something out of it. I really appreciate that. Sincerely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I asked about the artistic inclination thing in particular because, like, I can't draw to save my life, but I've wondered, are you able to learn at a later stage in life how to draw well and, like, do things like that?
I think so.
It seems like one of those things where if, like, you're really good at it from a very young age, you just naturally, like, got it. But if you don't, you don't. But
right now, you're speaking to representative artwork. You're speaking to, you know, what some people actually even consider a more primitive form of artwork, which is just very representative of what you're seeing. And that's how, if you ever have a formal education in art, because I did go to art school. I went to college for design. And they will teach you to draw what you see, right? But what they don't tell you is it's not just what you see on paper. It's not just what you see in front of you. It's what you see in your head. And you don't always have to see with your eyes, right? We talked a little bit more about the abstract art and things like that. And, you know, sharing that with the world can be much more difficult for someone who's doing art that they feel, but they don't feel like somebody is going to pick up on the aesthetic of it.
Mhm.
But what some people want and what some people get so passionate about in art isn't the way that it looks. It's what it makes them feel when they see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and I think that the intersection of those two, the way that it looks and how it makes people feel when you get that kismet, that's what ends up in a museum. You know, that's what ends up at a gallery is just bringing those things together. So I would say if you decide to pursue that path, and, you know, I've reached out to you before to offer you any sort of mentorship that I can in that way. And I stand by that 100%. And that goes for anybody. Absolutely. It goes for anybody that wants to get into that sort of thing. You can learn the techniques, man. You know, representative artwork is just technique. You know, if you can learn to hold a hook and you know, you can make a cobra ride a hook, that's technique.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yes,
I
it's
mean,
skill.
more
Yes,
so
there's
like-
talent.
Like the people that are able to draw portraits very quickly, and it's like maybe they didn't have any sort of formal schooling or something. They just like they're able to see it and then put it on paper, which like I can do that kind of thing with photography where it's like I can have a very clear picture of what I want that photo to be as far as like angle, placement, lighting, and like I can get from A to B no problem. But I look at like people that can draw and do like realism as far as paintings and stuff, and it's like I feel like there has to be some certain threshold of you just naturally being able to look and like make that on the spot that you
There
can't,
is, man.
like it's just I don't
There
something-
is, but it's it's an intersection of talent and hard work.
Yeah.
Just like being good at anything, it's an intersection of talent and hard work. I draw every day of my life. You know, I get people that ask me often about learning how to draw and like, how do you do it? You know, so on and so forth. And I say, you just have to do it. You know, the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. It's just like anything.
How do you get to Carnegie Hall?
That's right.
Practice.
You practice, you practice, you practice.
Facebook ads.
Yeah, that's right. Nowadays, it's all about your followers, right?
Yeah, and I mean, like what we talked about with the graphic design stuff and like the Fulvius stuff. I mean, a couple weeks ago, we were talking about it, and I was like, honestly, like in your professional opinion, is the stuff that I've been doing for Fulvius like worth the shit? Because the imposter syndrome thing is very real for me.
Oh yeah,
because I don't consider myself an artist because I'm basically making
Can I say something for
collages.
you?
I'm making collages.
No, but see, you're not
And
making
like to me.
you're
It's like because I can't physically. Like if you gave me a piece of paper and said, "Justin, draw that Bittis design you have on a shirt," I couldn't do it.
Yeah, but just because
Phil, can I shut him down for a second? Can I
do
shut
it.
him down?
I know
For
what you're gonna
some-
say,
for
man.
some
I know
reason-
what you're gonna say.
No,
Jeff, shut him down.
If I can't draw it and I can't do that kind of art, for some reason, that does not make you an artist, in my opinion. It is one of those things where it's like, if I can put it together in Photoshop because I'm cobbling some things together, sure. But it's like,
Smitty,
Tell him, Jeff.
have you heard the name Henri Matisse? Pardon my terrible French.
the pro wrestler.
Yeah, that guy. He wrestles in all kinds of museums, just right up on the walls. It's a collage artist. It's a
But doesn't that
famous
count?
collage
Because
artist.
You're not making the source material. You're just cutting
but
it and
so
taking
what?
an Elmer's
It
glue
doesn't-
stick
it
and
doesn't
slapping
matter.
it on a
What?
piece of paper.
It doesn't matter, man,
You-
because you had the eye to see putting those pieces together to make the art that is in front of us, right?
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
That's it.
As soon as you open your eyes out of your mother's womb, you are reinventing the wheel. As soon as you see something, you are not beyond the influence of it.
That's it.
You're always going to take influence. You're always going to take imagery that you see somewhere else. That's going to become your style. That's going to become your brand. And I'll tell you, on day one of my internship as a graphic designer, when I was in my junior year of college, I came there, and one of the bigger designers that was at the spot that I was at said, "Cool, you're an artist, but can you design?" Graphic design especially, is not art. There is an artistic flair to it. There's an artistic element to it, but it's aesthetic, but it's not art. And I'll tell you, there are people that make their whole living choosing color palettes and looking at, the things that you're putting together for Fulvius and everything. That's design. It's 100% design. Call yourself a designer if you want to, like Randy's saying, call yourself a designer, then not an artist. You don't have to be an artist to be a designer.
I still think he's an artist, whether he likes it or not.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I think that color theory is so much more of an art than people realize. Being able to put two colors together that people want to look at, much less adding a third or a fourth.
Yeah.
That's tough work. Fonts, typefaces, all those decisions, every single one of those is a decision. Just like a sketch artist putting their pencil to the paper.
Yeah.
Each one of those marks is a decision, and each one of those point size increases, each one of those typefaces, each one of those colors, palettes, shapes that you're using is a decision. And that's why I look at somebody like Matisse or Jean-Michel Basquiat that, is more of an abstract artist. They're all still decisions that are being made. And when you put them together, well, people respond to it. Yeah. And I think you've seen that. They're not just buying your shit because of your personality, bud.
I was going to say, we've all had that friend from high school who said, I'm going to sell cupcakes, and everyone goes and buys a cupcake, and they're like, this is delicious, Bob. You did a great job. And then he never sells a cupcake ever again. That's not the case, man. People are buying your stuff because they find it aesthetically pleasing, because they like it.
They want it.
Not just because they're your buddy or they listen to the show per se. It's good shit, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely it is. And you got to credit yourself for that. Honestly, you do. You got to take credit for it. And I know, as someone who really struggles taking compliments and taking credit for myself, I'm right there with you. Like, there's times, like, I designed this t-shirt that I'm wearing, right? There's times that I look at it and I go, shit, I could have fixed so many things about that, and in my mind, I'm looking at it, but how many people bought it? It wasn't just for US Art.
Yeah.
And that's the thing you got to look at, Smitty, is repeat customers, like Phil was talking about.
Yeah.
Everything you can sell everything one time. Can you sell it again?
Better yet, not only are people buying it because they're enjoying the artistry of it, but they're eager to see what's coming out next. That in itself, like they're I hate using the word thirsty because it's so modern and distasteful, contrary to the synonym, but
people are cool. Kids are saying these days.
People are eager to see what's next with Fulvius. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's art, man. I love it.
And even if you don't paint yourself in that light, Smitty, right? The reason that you're doing it, that I can determine, I haven't talked to you about why you're doing it, but I'm gonna pin it right here. The reason that you're doing it is because nobody else is.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's part of it, is nobody's making cool ass Subok hats.
Yeah.
Or OKD or, Alterna hats or shirts or things like that. But people want them.
Yeah.
So fuck, man, you found your niche.
Yeah, for sure.
Feel free to stay outside of your lane, but also if it's comfy, ride it out.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Absolutely. I love it. And I was,
I won't call myself an artist necessarily. I won't call myself a designer necessarily. It's just, I don't know why my feelings on it are, I guess, warped, because it's one of those things where it's like Illustrator, like we talked about Illustrator.
Yeah.
I know very, 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 very little about Illustrator. I use it for one particular section of my job, and that is it. I need to know how to learn Illustrator more. if I'm going to
Let-
call myself an
let
artist
me
or
ask you this.
designer,
Let me
I
ask
feel
you
like I
this.
should probably know Illustrator way more than I do to be able to say, walk into a crowd and be like, yeah, I'm an artist, man.
Do you need to know Illustrator more, or do you need to know what you want to do in Illustrator better?
Both.
See, this is what I tell people, especially about Adobe Creative Suites. Adobe Creative Suites is an amazing tool, or a set of tools, right? You've got Photoshop, InDesign, Illustrator, all these design tools for that. Illustrator, love it. Love the program. I don't know how to do half the shit in Illustrator, and I worked in it for 15 years professionally. There's too much to it. Photoshop's the same way. There's too much to it. But at the same time, there's just enough to it, because the half that I'm not using, somebody else is. Right? I need to know what I need to be able to do in it. And especially when you're talking about Photoshop and people just getting into it, I always encourage people, figure out what you want to do and then figure out how to do it.
Yeah,
Right?
all
And
the
we
Adobe
say the
stuff,
same thing about, go ahead.
it's a very steep learning curve with all of it. And I mean, that was the case with InDesign when we were doing, HM, the first run. Pretty much getting InDesign and not having a clue where to start with it and having to learn it myself was that was a big thing. And unfortunately, I don't remember a lot of it now. So if we ended up going back to InDesign, I'd pretty much be starting over. But
Well, you got me here, brother.
we're just gonna rock Canva, I think, with the new bringing it back, just because
it's a really powerful tool. There's a lot of people using
I
Canva
freaking
really
love
well.
Canva. I use Canva and Photoshop together because like Canva does some things that Photoshop just doesn't do as well, or it's much more time consuming to get the final result out of Photoshop. Like even just warping text around a circle or something, like in Canva, it's like that. In Photoshop, you got to make the circle, make the path, all that stuff. So together, I mean, I think you really don't need much more than that, but I don't know. It's
Yeah, and I would say the same thing about Canva as anything Adobe is just figure out what you want to do first, and then throw it at the paper after that, or the digital paper, if you will.
Yeah, man.
But it's similar to snake keeping, right? It's similar to keeping reptiles, because you don't learn how to take care of fossorial species, arboreal species, semi-terrestrial, semi-arboreal, so on and so forth. All of these things like Florida wants you to do for your venomous permit, right, Phil?
Oh,
but you don't learn how to do that. You learn how to keep the species you want to keep.
Yeah. Yeah, and we used to force.
The better you do that.
We used to force people. And when I had the class in Underground, we used to at Underground's retail store. We had a venomous training class so that people could get their hours to apply for the Florida license. People would come in and say, "Okay, I only want to keep rattlesnakes, so I'm only going to get hours for rattlesnakes." And we would tell them, "No, you're going to handle everything, because not only is it going to make you that much of a better keeper, you may find something that you didn't know you were looking for." And so many people
Absolutely.
said, "Oh, I love gaboon vipers," and then they handled gaboon vipers for a whole year, and they're like, "You know what? They're not for me, man.
gaboon vipers.
Yeah, they're not for me. I like something else, or whatever." But now they have all that knowledge base that they didn't have, and they didn't want to have, or they didn't think they wanted it, and they realized that it was good that they got it.
Yeah. I mean, how many people came in wanting a gaboon and ending up with a monocle?
How many people wanted a gaboon and then wound up getting something completely off like a green tree pit viper, or who knows,
A Malaysian,
or they wanted the cobra because they saw it on Instagram with the hood and showing, and then they realized that no, it's just a colubrid that poops more. It's not my cup of tea.
Is that
If
possible?
Lisa's still in the chat, she'll tell you the same thing about white lips.
Yeah.
It's like you see the Instagram video of a white lip, but you don't see all the times you're getting bit trying to handle them.
Yeah. Or the TLC that's required to keep them properly.
Yeah, but I mean, a gaboon, I think a lot of times it ends up like a chondro, like a green tree python. It's so easy to keep.
Yeah.
It's like, that's really fucking cool.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's not even that. It's like
I
I'm
could
gonna
have
make
a picture that'd be just as interesting.
Exactly. It's like, okay, I made this badass, awesome enclosure with leaf litter, and you don't see the snake.
Yeah,
it's just
that's the whole point.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
see an eyeball, and that's it.
Yeah, you see a twitching,
Yeah.
quivering eyeball. But yeah, just to go back to what Smitty was saying, I personally feel like, Smitty is an artist. He may not be drawing the snake on the print per se, line for line, but like when Chagall broke out charcoals, people criticized him. Marc Chagall, when he broke out charcoals, people criticized him for not having any line structure. And he's like, but that's not the point. It's the feeling, like you were talking about earlier. It's the emotion. It's the feeling of it across the canvas, and you could see what he's doing. Why do I have to have a border? Why do I have to have an outline? I mean, obviously, it was a long time ago. People thought differently, but same thing, man. Just because you're not quote unquote putting pen to paper, it's still art, man.
I don't know.
The
There
art
has to
isn't
be
how you translate the image.
Yeah,
there has to be a line drawn somewhere, because when we're at a point where a banana duct taped to a wall is all of a sudden worth
no, that's
however
not.
many tons of millions of dollars.
That's called money laundering. That's not what we're talking about.
That's the scam. That's
That's money laundering.
For anybody that doesn't know, let me tell you how money laundering and tax evasion works in the art world.
Yes, feel free.
Rich people have money and they have taxes, and the taxes they don't want to pay, right? So they buy a piece of art from an artist and they say, I'm going to give you $5 million for this piece of art, and now I'm going to lend it to the museum. And now that I've lent it to the museum, I'm going to have a tax write-off for the credit of having that piece in the museum, which I've basically decided the value that I'm going to pay to put into it. Now, meanwhile, you're probably going to give me a lot of gifts as an artist. You're probably going to do a lot of things for me as an artist because I'm the one that put you on the scene. I'm the one that got you in the museum, so you're going to scratch my back. Definitely. I might lose that $5 million, but every year in the museum, I'm getting a tax write-off for your piece being in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, and at the same time, though, I will say this. Let's not confuse that with a legitimate piece of art from a commodity investment point of view, because correct me if I'm wrong, I think there's more Rembrandts freely available than any other classical artist. Something to that extent.
I'm not sure it's Rembrandt, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So you can get a Rembrandt for what could be considered a reasonable amount of money, right?
There's Picassos all over the world.
Yeah, exactly. There's Picasso's, a name that everyone knows. Picasso's all over the world. And if you've got the scratch, you can buy it and you can enjoy it. And then when the time comes and you want to sell it, you can make money because it is a finite number. It is a commodity. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the banana duct tape to a wall.
Yeah. And I think that's what's so difficult for us. And we run into this in herpetoculture. And I'm going to keep circling it back.
Yeah, go for it, dude.
But we run into this in herpetoculture all the time. And that's, where do we draw the line?
Yeah.
Well, I got news, folks. The world is a spectrum. There's no lines.
Yeah.
You may be putting down lines on your paper, but the whole world is a spectrum. So if I was to say everybody is an artist, it's 100% true. Everybody has that capacity within them, and everybody does something in their life artistically. And so to say that you're an artist, I could be blowing smoke up your ass, or I could be saying 100% the truth, or I could be undermining what I'm actually trying to say by it. The label is not what matters. The work is what's out there. And I'm sorry to say, buddy, but you're making work and you're doing graphic design. So at the very least, you're a designer. And like Phil was saying, I think when it comes to color selections and patterns and things like that, I think you're talking about art at that point, my friend.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think we do the same thing in snake keeping and herpetoculture, in any aspect of even animal hobby or dedication, is that we want to draw these lines, and they just don't exist. The difference between a good keeper and a bad keeper could be a bad day.
Yeah.
Or a good day.
Yeah.
We all are living a life on a spectrum. It's not black and white, and it's not that simple. So you keep making your art, I'll keep making my art, and I think we'll both make the world a better place.
And I'll keep buying the shirts.
There you go.
And I was talking to Billy Hunt before the show, and I had no idea that you made his Ubami logo.
I need to be completely upfront and honest about it, I did not make his Uwabami logo, but
Oh, okay.
I did what some people come to me for, which is making their logo better.
Oh, cool. Excellent.
Or remaking their logo. So
'cause
I've done
love
a
his
number of
logo.
logos. Yeah, he had a good logo to start with. He had a great concept to work off of.
Yeah.
And that makes a huge difference. Again, talking about what you're doing there, Schmitty, with Fulvius Apparel. You got a great concept to work off of, like Billy did with Uwabami. And, we were able to make a really pleasant, not just logo, but overall appearance. We talked about his displays and things like that. And he really did a great job of incorporating the colors and the logo into different aspects of his displays.
Yeah.
That's beyond what we talk about with logos and we talk about branding. So in the design world, you're getting past the point of just doing a logo, a treatment, a splash, if you will, but you're talking about what colors go along with it, what fonts, what shapes even. Is this a more of a geometric shape or more of a curvilinear shape?
Yeah, man. And you see it with Billy's display. Like anyone who's seen Billy Hunt's Uwabami Reptiles show display at a reptile show, whether it be a Daytona or Tinley, and he'll be at Tinley this year for those who are going to go check it out. You have these earth tones of brown and green and tan and the bamboo leaves, and it's very in the negative where you can see the shape of the bamboo, but it doesn't have that line structure. It's very, very negative in appearance. And his deli cups, when you get an animal from him, they have a brown liner with the Uwabami, the Japanese kanji in the middle, and it's a full motif, and I think it's awesome.
Yeah, Billy did. This is somebody, we talk about someone as an artist, Billy's got the flair for it, right? There's something that he's got in his eye and his aesthetic that he can see beyond his display and his branding, but actually into his snake breeding.
Yeah.
When you're talking about somebody who's dedicated to the look of the snakes, like Billy is in a lot of cases, not to say anything about his care, he takes wonderful, wonderful care of his animals, incredible, incredible person when it comes to animal keeping, but he has such an eye for what he wants aesthetically in a snake.
Yeah.
And that's someone who is really flirting with art a lot at that point, right? And I think we do it ourselves. Like, Phil, I know you're not a huge morph guy, but you like the look of certain animals. Like,
absolutely,
you talk about squams or something like that. You probably got a favorite color.
Yeah, absolutely. And dude, like, and we all bust balls about ball pythons, but like what you said earlier with the piebald, like, I've had a handful of ball pythons over the years, but dude, the piebald's still my favorite. It is just something captivating about it, and maybe it is each individual animal's artistry, because no matter how much white's there, how much patterns there, how many smiley faces on the side, it's always unique and it's always fun and highly beautiful.
It really is. It really is. And they're so cute when they're babies. Honestly, you just play into the serotonin boost.
Oh, for sure. For sure. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, boys, we're at the 2-hour mark. Is there anything else you guys want to touch base on?
Shoot, I've got so much I could talk to you guys about all night, but I don't know. Man. I think we do another one at some point.
Oh, for
another 2 hours. Let's go.
Let's go. Cody, Pia, you got nothing on this one.
Nice.
Right.
Nice.
No, I've got it in me, but I don't think my phone does, gentlemen.
Fair enough.
It's going to overheat at some point.
That's good stuff, man. Good stuff.
But I do want to say, if anybody's going down that path or feeling down in that way, down in the dumps about your work or anything like that, drop me a line. I'm on Instagram. Phil or Justin, they'd be happy to give out my information if that's something that you wanted to do as far as contacting me. Always there to give a bright voice when I can, because you never know when somebody's going to need it.
Yeah. I love it, man.
Right. If anybody's curious, I have his social security number and his credit card numbers. I will give those out to the highest bidder.
That's right. Good luck getting anything out of it. I have snakes, friends. That means I don't have money.
Yeah. It's our fucking life. Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Where should people follow you?
You know what? You don't need to. The world's a great place. Go outside, look at your snakes.
You know, if you want to look at me, Instagram, I got some things on there. I don't post all that often. Hands of Jeff on Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's good stuff.
Was
Yeah, absolutely.
This episode was brought to you by blackboxcages.com. Check them out, Facebook, Instagram. Use code THN with that same THN checkout code and use it at fullviewsapparel.com. That's the special code just for THN listeners and viewers like you. Puget Sound Pythons, the fine folks of the Pacific Northwest. Go give them a follow on Facebook and Instagram. Follow them on Morph Market. Cold-blooded caffeine. Get yourself some coffee. Stay awake. Use the link down below and help us out.
Yeah.
All these things up here at the top of the screen, they're doing awesome rad stuff. Fulvius Apparel, BlackBox, Puget Sound Pythons. They're doing rad shit. Check them out.
Yeah. Well said.
Don't know what the deal is with THP this week. Got to figure it out. We got some scheduling things to sort. But it'll be a one-on-one because it'll be episode 200.
Excellent.
And other than that, I don't think there's anything else lined up in particular. But thank you all. We'll see you later.
Bye.